The Zaporizhzhia Nuclear Power Plant stands as a stark reminder of the fragility of peace. Located in southeastern Ukraine, this sprawling complex has been under Russian military control since the early days of the conflict. The facility remains a powder keg, a potential disaster zone in the heart of a war zone. Experts warn of a potential catastrophe that could dwarf Chernobyl. The situation is incredibly volatile. Both sides accuse the other of recklessness. A nuclear accident would have devastating consequences for the entire region. The International Atomic Energy Agency, the global nuclear watchdog, has been sounding the alarm about Zaporizhzhia for months. Their warnings have become increasingly dire, their language more urgent. The IAEA has called for an immediate end to all military activity around the plant, warning that the risk of a nuclear accident is very real. Rafael Grossi, the head of the IAEA, has personally visited the plant on multiple occasions trying to broker a deal to secure the facility. He has described the situation as untenable and playing with fire. His pleas for restraint have largely fallen on deaf ears. The fighting continues and the danger grows. The IAEA has documented damage to the plant's infrastructure, including power lines and buildings. They have expressed concern about the welfare of the plant's Ukrainian staff, who are working under immense pressure in dangerous conditions. The agency has warned that the situation is unsustainable and that time is running out. The IAEA's warnings cannot be ignored. They are the voice of reason in a sea of madness. The world must listen to their pleas and take action to prevent a catastrophe. The fate of millions hangs in the balance. Ukraine finds itself in an impossible position, caught between a rock and a hard place, fighting for survival against a powerful aggressor, accused of using a nuclear plant as a shield, risking global safety. Some believe Ukraine is provoking Western intervention. Others argue Ukraine wouldn't risk a nuclear catastrophe. Any radiation release would devastate Ukraine. Ukraine is defending itself against Russian aggression. The truth is likely somewhere in between. The situation at Zaporizhzhia has inevitably drawn comparisons to the sabotage of the Nord Stream pipelines in September 2022. In that incident, explosions ripped through the pipelines under the Baltic Sea, causing a massive leak of natural gas. While the exact perpetrators remain unknown, many believe that Russia was behind the attack. The Nord Stream sabotage sent shockwaves through Europe, highlighting the vulnerability of critical infrastructure and the willingness of actors to engage in dangerous escalation. Some observers see the situation at Zaporizhzhia as a continuation of this pattern, with Russia once again using energy infrastructure as a weapon in its war against Ukraine. They argue that Russia is deliberately trying to create a sense of fear and uncertainty, hoping to undermine Western support for Ukraine. They believe that Russia is willing to risk a nuclear accident to achieve its objectives. Others caution against jumping to conclusions, arguing that there is no evidence to suggest that Russia is planning an attack on Zaporizhzhia. The echoes of Nord Stream serve as a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the potential for conflict to escalate in unpredictable and dangerous ways. The world is watching Zaporizhzhia with a sense of dread, hoping that history will not repeat itself. Section 5. The urgency of Western intervention, averting disaster. The situation at Zaporizhzhia demands a strong and unified response from the international community, particularly from Ukraine's Western allies. The potential consequences of a nuclear disaster are too grave to ignore. The time for complacency is long past. First and foremost, the West must exert maximum pressure on Russia to demilitarize the Zaporizhzhia plant. This could involve a combination of diplomatic pressure, economic sanctions, and military deterrence. Russia must understand that there will be severe consequences if it continues to endanger the plant. Second, the West must provide Ukraine with the support it needs to defend itself, including advanced air defense systems to protect critical infrastructure like Zaporizhzhia. Ukraine cannot be expected to fight this war alone. Third, the international community must prepare for the possibility of a nuclear accident, however remote that possibility may seem. This includes pre-positioning emergency response teams, securing medical supplies, and developing evacuation plans for potentially affected populations. The world is at a crossroads. The stakes have never been higher. The West must act decisively to prevent a catastrophe at Zaporizhzhia. Failure is not an option. Section 6. The global stakes beyond Ukraine's borders. The crisis at Zaporizhzhia is not just a regional issue, it's a global one. A nuclear accident would have far-reaching consequences, impacting not only Ukraine and its neighbors, but also countries far beyond the immediate vicinity. The environmental impact of a nuclear disaster would be catastrophic. Radioactive fallout could contaminate vast areas of land, rendering them uninhabitable for generations. The health consequences would be devastating, with increased rates of cancer and other radiation-related illnesses. The economic fallout would also be severe. The disruption to agriculture, trade, and transportation would be immense. The cost of cleanup and remediation would be astronomical. The global economy, already fragile, could be pushed into a deep recession. Moreover, a nuclear accident at Zaporizhzhia would have profound geopolitical ramifications. It would likely lead to a dramatic escalation of the conflict, with unpredictable and potentially disastrous consequences. It could also trigger a new nuclear arms race, as countries around the world sought to enhance their nuclear arsenals. The world cannot afford to let Zaporizhzhia become another Chernobyl. The stakes are simply too high. Section 7. Russia's role, responsibility and denial. Russia, as the occupying power at Zaporizhzhia, bears a special responsibility for the safety and security of the plant. Its actions, however, have been reckless and irresponsible, putting the entire world at risk. Russia has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing, accusing Ukraine and the West of exaggerating the threat at Zaporizhzhia for propaganda purposes. It has refused to allow international inspectors full access to the plant and has blocked efforts to establish a demilitarized zone around the facility. Russia's actions are not only dangerous, but they are also illegal. The International Atomic Energy Agency, or IAEA, has repeatedly condemned Russia's militarization of Zaporizhzhia, calling it a violation of international law. The IAEA has also expressed concern about the treatment of Ukrainian staff at the plant, who are reportedly being subjected to intimidation and coercion. Russia's behavior is a clear example of nuclear brinkmanship, using the threat of a nuclear disaster to achieve its political objectives. The world must not allow Russia to get away with this dangerous game. Section 8. The human cost. A silent catastrophe. While the world focuses on the geopolitical implications of the Zaporizhzhia crisis, it's important to remember the human cost of this conflict. The people of Ukraine are living through a nightmare, caught in the crossfire of a war they didn't start. Millions of Ukrainians have been forced to flee their homes, becoming refugees in their own country or seeking safety abroad. Those who remain live under the constant threat of violence, their lives turned upside down by the conflict. The psychological toll of the war is immeasurable. The constant stress and fear are taking a heavy toll on the mental health of the Ukrainian people. The trauma of war will leave lasting scars on generations to come. The world must not forget the human cost of this conflict. We must do everything in our power to alleviate the suffering of the Ukrainian people and to bring an end to this senseless war. Section 9. The path forward, diplomacy and de-escalation. The situation at Zaporizhzhia is dire, but it's not hopeless. There is still time to avert a catastrophe, but it will require a concerted effort from the international community. The first step is to de-escalate the situation. This means establishing a ceasefire around Zaporizhzhia, withdrawing all military forces from the plant, and allowing the IAEA full and unfettered access to the facility. The second step is to find a diplomatic solution to the broader conflict in Ukraine. This will require all parties to come to the negotiating table in good faith and to be willing to compromise. The alternative is a protracted war with potentially catastrophic consequences. The road to peace will be long and difficult, but it is the only way to ensure the safety and security of the Ukrainian people and the world. Section 10. A world on edge, the nuclear threat persists. The crisis at Zaporizhzhia is a stark reminder of the enduring threat posed by nuclear weapons. As long as these weapons exist, there is a risk that they will be used, whether intentionally or by accident. The world must work together to eliminate the threat of nuclear war. This means strengthening international treaties, reducing nuclear arsenals, and working towards a world without nuclear weapons. The crisis in Ukraine has shown us that the nuclear threat is not a relic of the Cold War. It is a clear and present danger that demands our urgent attention. The future of humanity may depend on it.
So hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and let's turn the page on a new adventure together. Get ready to experience books like never before, only on VBook 360. Like, comment, and share to support the channel and keep the video magic alive. Thank you for stopping by. And remember, every video has a story, and every story deserves to be shared. See you in the next video.